everyone. Thank you for being at the Little Rock Zoo. It is a beautiful day. We've had some cold weather, but we lucked out today and got some great weather. My name is Susan Altrui, and I am the director of the Little Rock Zoo. I want to welcome you here for a very special presentation. We are going to have a live cheetah here today, and we are so fortunate to have this beautiful, fantastic, gorgeous animal ambassador from the Columbus Zoo who's traveled all this way for a very, very special event to teach us about the importance of cheetah conservation. This is a very, very special day for us. We partner with organizations like the Cheetah Conservation Fund who work very, very hard to save cheetahs in the wild. This is something that we work with every day here at the Little Rock Zoo to save species in the wild. We have our own cheetahs here, our own animal ambassadors, and they serve as an example for cheetahs in the wild to teach people like you, people like me, people like all of us about the importance of saving wild species. We're going to learn a little bit about the Cheetah Conservation Fund today. We're going to get to see a live cheetah, and then we're going to learn a little bit about some very important information about research and about some great work that a very special lady named Dr. Ann Schmidt-Kunzel, who's going to tell us a little bit more about what cheetahs do. We're going to be bringing out the cheetah here soon, but I also want to introduce to you a little bit about Dr. Ann Schmidt-Kunzel because she's a very, very important lady and she does a lot of special work for cheetahs. Because it's not without science and about research that we're not able to do things for the cheetah. And it's very, very important that we have her because she's the reason why we're able to save them. Dr. Ann Schmidt-Kunzel is with the Cheetah Conservation Fund, and she's the head of genetics, and she's the assistant director for animal health and research for the Cheetah Conservation Fund. CCF is an organization that's largely credited with saving the wild cheetah, and scientific research is the backbone of what CCF does. Their education and their conservation activities are largely influenced by this, and CCF's scientific research on cheetahs focuses on a number of aspects of the cheetah's life cycle, their biology, and their genetics. Research projects also include ecology, human-wildlife conflict, agriculture, and biomass energy. Dr. Schmidt-Kunzel involves much of this activity and more, and we are so honored to have her with us today. So it is definitely my pleasure to introduce her to her. So I'm going to introduce her right now, just have her wave to you. So she's going to be talking to us today about genetics and what she does with the cheetahs. So if you want to come forth and say something real quick. Yeah, so tell her, let her say hi real quick.
All right, well, thank you very much for this kind introduction, and thank you very much to all of you for coming here to learn more about the cheetah and help it stay in this world for the next generations. I'm going to give a presentation a little bit later so that you can get a bit more background information, but for now you're going to have the chance to see a cheetah, an ambassador cheetah from the Columbus Zoo, and they're also going to tell you a little bit more how special the cheetah is. So enjoy, and thank you very much.
Hi guys, and I love that y'all clapped and all, but we're going to do some rules now to get ready. Emmett's about to arrive. Emmett is the cheetah that's coming in. Instead of clapping, if you enjoy something you hear, this is a cheetah clap. We need to keep everything quiet. If you have children within the room, everybody must be sitting down at all times. Sudden movements could scare the cheetah, so we need you to be really quiet. Okay, what do we do if we want to clap? That's right. Good job. Y'all ready to meet Emmett? All right. Is everybody hearing me fine? Then you should be able to hear Tommy. This is Emmett. Please welcome Emmett. How do we do that? There you go. Cheetah claps. Great. Here we go.
All right. Well, like she said, this is Emmett. Emmett's a 3.5-year-old male cheetah. We've had him his whole life. He was born out of a facility called the Wilds, which is up in Ohio. He's part of the litter of 3. The other 2 didn't make it. He actually was very, very sick, had a feeding tube. Whitney was actually one of the people that was very much in charge of kind of making sure that he got healthy. She got a picture of him. He was just this tiny little runt, and now he's 90 pounds, extremely healthy, a good-looking cat. Emmett, you can kind of see we do a lot of training with him. This is all trained behavior, believe it or not. Even him flipping his hips over so that he lays. Even just looking out at you guys. We've kind of trained him to look at the audience so you guys are getting your good pictures. And you'll notice while he's looking out, Whitney will go ahead and throw a piece piece of chicken down for him. We feed him chicken breast. It's a pretty big treat for him. He doesn't get all the time, so he's pretty excited right now. If I had a mic, you'd be able to hear him purring. This is the largest purring cat. They will, some purr louder than others. Emmett's just pretty typically always a happy cat. He's always purring. We do have a dog with us. He's out in the van though because he's been wanting to play a lot, and we didn't want to have Emmett up here on a table playing with his buddy. We have a dog mainly as like a companion animal for our cheetah. The Columbus Zoo raises all the cheetahs we can with dogs. We actually have 4 cheetah dogs, is what we call them. They're all just yellow labs. And the reason we do that is they act kind of as a training aid. When they're younger, cheetahs just in general, when you think of fight or flight response, it's always flight. They're always going to run. So they're kind of a little bit more skittish, or that's their first response. But with having a dog, especially a yellow lab, because what do they care about? Food and people, and that's pretty much it. So that makes our job easy. We'll walk the lab in first when they're young, and the cheetah sees the labs really calm and wagging their tail, and they cue off the dog, and we'll follow the dog typically right into just about any scenario, and then that kind of helps us with our training. Now you can see Emmett doesn't need calling anymore, but I can tell you there was a lot of wrestling matches going on back at the hotel. We kind of give everybody as much exercise as we can whenever we go and do any types of traveling like this, so it really helps having calling. He's actually a big part of our team when it comes to traveling with cats. Now just a little bit about cheetahs. You guys are noticing those black marks on the face. If you ever think of like baseball players or football players, they put that black, the eye black under their eyes. This cat hunts exclusively during the day. So they need to have that ability to kind of dampen out the sun. So the sun's not always getting in their eyes, they're not always squinting, because they need their eyesight. Their eyesight are visual hunters. They need that eyesight to be able to go after their prey. Now cheetahs aren't, he's a big cat. It's kind of, he's a big cat. He's 90 pounds, but he's not a big cat. He's not a lion. He's not going to be taken down with 400 or 500, big wildebeest or anything. This cat's going to be going after kind of smaller prey. And they run at 70 miles an hour. So imagine running 70 miles an hour and taking down like a little 45, 50 pound Thompson gazelle. That's kind of the prey that this animal's going to be hunting. You may also notice his tail is kind of flat. If you've ever stuck your hand out of a car window while you're going down the highway and you feel the wind blow your hand back, cheetahs run with this flat tail up in the air, and it acts almost like a rudder. Like I said, they run 70 miles an hour, but what's almost just as impressive is they can turn at about 50 miles an hour, 90 degrees. So if you just think, if you were just running, say you could run at 60 miles an hour, 50, 70 miles an hour, and just plant and turn and go a different direction instantly, that's what this cat is capable of. And with all of our, what do you got, snowmobiles and jet skis and motorcycles, humans have not even developed a machine that can do that. It's pretty unique engineering that cheetahs have built in. To help them run, they've also got claws that are always out. They have non-retractable claws. They have claws that just stay out all the time. And those are just built-in cleats, built-in ability to just kind of tear and dig into the ground. At the Columbus Zoo, we do a lure system where we have a watering hole, and we actually have cheetahs that are trained. They chase the lure. We actually have to train them to chase the lure, so they kind of get a little bit of a reward for it at first, but then sort of habit kicks in, and we have a pretty good cheetah run system that goes on there. Whitney's a big part of that. But yeah, I mean, they're cool. Emmett's being a very good cat for us right now. I don't know, he's being awesome, but you guys feel free to take a few more pictures. We won't be able to like come up or get any closer or anything, but we're gonna have Emmett here for maybe just a few more seconds, and then
Did everybody enjoy the cheetah talk?
we'll have him walk back. All right.
Did anybody have any questions before Emmett goes back to be with his dog? No questions?
Go ahead.
Is his shoulder all healed up?
Is his what?
His shoulder all healed up?
All healed up, Emmett? Yes.
He was on the zoo show.
Oh, he was on the zoo show. I'm sorry, I missed out on that. Yeah, Whitney's dealt with him a lot more. So yeah, his shoulder's all healed up. We wouldn't. He's pretty much in peak condition right now. He's doing real good.
And he's doing the cheetah runs. multiple times throughout the week and doing awesome. He runs, his brother Cullen, the dog, gets to run right after him too. So these guys are really, really doing great. Thanks for
Any other questions? All right, give a big round of cheetah photos, and then Emmett's gonna say goodbye. Thank you, and now Miss Dr. Ann's gonna come up with guitar. Thank you, Emmett. Thank you, guys.
All right, I'll give you a couple of seconds to soak in what you got to experience right now. It's a very tough act to follow because, of course, this is a unique opportunity in your life. Is there any more question before I start that you have about cheetahs, their behavior, their biology? I don't see them, but go ahead. No? Okay, no question. Yeah, it's a bit low. Hi, sorry. Okay, perfect. All right, so as you've heard, cheetahs are very, very unique individuals, and as you probably already know, they're the fastest land mammal on Earth. So they're really, really amazing and a species that we want to keep around for its uniqueness and for its importance in conservation. So as you know, it's the fastest animal. There's something about cheetahs that is a bit of a misconception when people say they're not social because they're thinking lion prides. That is correct, they do not live in prides, but actually they are quite social in their own way. So for instance, here you have Emmett on its own with his dog buddy, but in the wild, a male will usually try and stay with his siblings. So you have, that's called a coalition of brothers. So you're more likely to see something like that with 3 males together, 2 or 3, depending on how big the litter was. Females, though, are going to be on their own, and they're going to raise cubs for 2 years until, well, 1.5 years to 2 years until those cubs then become independent. And so they have very, very strong social bonds, just not in these big groups, as you know from wolves or from lions. They're very important for the ecosystem. So as you heard about their biological specialties, but for an ecosystem, you have to have a healthy population of species, you have to have diversity. Cheetahs are very, very fast hunters, and predators normally kill the weak animals, the sick animals. So the ones that remain are going to be healthier. And so that is very important for the environment. They also eat very fast because, as you heard, they're quite weak and they have to protect themselves as well. So they'll eat fast and then they'll move away if lions are around. And so they leave carcasses with food on that is very important for jackals, but also for other birds such as vultures. And so it goes down all the way to the dung beetle. It's the pyramid of life. And so, of course, you do need all of the cheetahs. And if they were not part of the ecosystem, our world would change. The sad thing about cheetahs is that as amazing as they are, they have had a huge decline in the last century, where they're now down to less than 10,000 individuals. The latest estimates are about 7,300 adults and adolescents in the entire world. How big is your football stadium? Big. How many people does it seat? 20,000? That's about, so 20,000 people will sit in a big football game. If you sent all the cheetahs in the world to a football game, you would fill half the stadium, not even. So just to put that into perspective, when you hear about low numbers of animals, it's not low, it's ridiculously low. Those are really, really low numbers that are not good for the survival of a species. And that's due to habitat loss, to more and more people in the world, human-wildlife conflict, etc. As you heard, they're the smallest cats, so they actually don't do very well in national parks, because national parks are very important for lions, hyenas, and other big predators. And so cheetahs are the lowest in the pecking rank of those predators, so they are not doing particularly well when those other species are really present. And so in particular in countries like Namibia, which are an amazing country that has an integrated system with very little fragmentation and a lot of wild land still, cheetahs actually mostly live on farmland. And that comes with a whole other issue, because that means that they have to be able to live with people. And so living on farmland means that that land needs to be healthy, and it needs to be able to provide food, which is a challenge, because not only do they need a lot of, well, actually, let me just go, because not only do they need a lot of space, but also The land in Namibia, even though there are not many people around there, has a problem of desertification. There's very little rain, so there's very little vegetation except for these thorn bushes that are very, very dense. It's called bush encroachment. They're acacia shrubs that have thorns. These don't even look that big. They can be that big. And they can be dangerous for the animal, but they also reduce the carrying capacity of the land. So less antelope means less food, means less space for cheetahs, which also means that the farmers have less land to work with and are a lot less tolerant. And that goes hand in hand with cheetahs needing more space than most other predators. Cheetahs have huge home ranges, and I'm sorry, I'm still thinking in kilometers, I'm struggling with the miles, but they have about 1,500 square kilometers. I did though look up the size of your state. You can fit about 100 cheetah home ranges in your state, and that covers your entire state. So that's not very much when you look at how many houses you have in your state. And so this is the particularities of the cheetah. They need huge spaces, and they need to be able to live there. Unfortunately, people will often conceive them as a problem, whether they do or do not eat the livestock, and our studies have shown that most of the time they will eat antelopes over livestock, but whether they do or don't, farmers will assume that they do because they will see them. And so you have a lot of removal of cheetahs because they're considered as a threat. We can't really blame the farmers because when you see what we do with wolves in Europe and in the US, it's very, very hard for people to understand and to share the land with predators. We think that as humans are the only ones who matter, but for a healthy world, we do know that everything is important. We just need to find a way of doing that so that nobody loses out. And with cheetahs, actually, there's quite a lot of options for that. And so what happened is that almost 30 years ago, Dr. Laurie Marker started the Cheetah Conservation Fund in Namibia, where a lot of cheetahs are present, to help protect the cheetahs in the wild. And that's the major mission of CCF. It's to protect the cheetahs in the wild. But we have a lot of rescue animals in Namibia, around 20 usually, that are orphans that cannot be released into the wild. And for those, of course, then we try and help use them to understand the wild animals better and to use the knowledge that we gain to help the cheetahs. So we do health assessments, and we have a veterinary clinic on site, and so every cheetah that comes in from the wild gets a thorough health exam. And what we have found is that usually if there is a cheetah that actually catches livestock, it's sick. And so we've had cheetahs which really put teeth, so dental issues, or with a broken foot or some issue like that. And so usually if they do catch livestock, they have a problem and they need help. And so we have brought in human dentists because that's all we had available, trained them, teamed up with them, fixed the teeth, waited till the paws are fixed, etc. And then those animals can rule back out and normally go to resume a perfectly normal wild cheetah life. However, if they're little cubs, then we will keep them, as I said. We are studying gastritis. It's an issue that cheetahs are very, very susceptible to stress, and so they have issues like gastritis, and so we've studied that as well. Our cheetahs don't have it as much because we have the luxury of having the space to keep them and it's their natural environment. And so we have used that. We of course do ecological research with camera traps, etc. All of that being used to understand the cheetah better, but also to release those cheetahs that we've had that were young 6 months to a year, year and a half, that were not used to living on their own, and so we keep them until they're about 2, until they're adults and mature enough, but they still don't know how to hunt. So we do rewilding with them and set them back out, and with all of what we've learned, we know how much food they need, we track them, and then we will feed them until they're independent. And so we use all of the research to feed back into the wild population. Human-wildlife conflict, as I said, is very, very important. And so the dogs, here you use the dogs as companion animals so that the cheetah is relaxed and can, learn to be comfortable. We use dogs, those are actually Anatolian shepherds. They're quite a bit bigger than a Labrador. And they go out and they protect the livestock. So they go out with the goats and sheep. So the cheetahs will not come anywhere close to that. Therefore, the farmer doesn't have any losses and can have the cheetah around without any problem, and can then in turn benefit from tourism, because why do we go to Namibia? Not to see the goats and sheep as much as we love them. And so therefore, it's a bit of a cycle where you can make it work without having anyone suffering from it. Otherwise, it just is not possible. We do genetic research as well, and so I'm not going to go into that. We have a bunch of different projects that we do, but the most important thing is that cheetahs have very, very low genetic diversity, and that's been found about 30 years ago. It's actually the species that's opened up the field of conservation genetics. It's the first species where the second, there were two species in the beginning, them and the elephant seal, and another species, where they found that the genetic diversity was incredibly low and that it can impact conservation and their survival. Why is that? Because you need diversity to be able to adapt to a changing environment. And now that we talk climate change, when you're thinking infectious disease and all of those issues, you have to be diverse, because if everyone is the same, it's like you put all your eggs in one basket. If you pick the right basket, perfect, fine. But if you pick the wrong basket, they're all gone. And so that's where the risk is. That's where you want diversity for the hope to survive long term. What we have also found out is that they've had that low diversity for 10,000 years, which is a good sign, because it means that it's strong enough to, in the environment that they have, live for 10,000 years. So what we need to do is make sure the numbers stay big enough so that they can keep that diversity, and if there's a change in the future, which inevitably will happen, that they're able to continue to survive. And so this is the aspects that we're dealing with, and of course the low numbers are an issue, because the low numbers mean you keep losing diversity, which we don't want. All right, 1 second. I'm trying to change the slide. There you go. So the cheetah has another handicap that I have not told you about yet, because it's very, very unique to the species of the cheetah, and that is that humans actually love cheetahs. And why is that bad? It is bad because cheetahs have loved cheetahs for ages. They've used them for hunting. In India in particular, you have all these stunning pictures of cheetahs that are there, that are hunting companions and bring down prey, etc. Well, the consequence is there's not a single wild cheetah left in India, because cheetahs don't reproduce well in captivity, and therefore they get sourced from the wild, and so cheetahs are loved to extinction, which is something that is very sad to think about. And so this is what happened in the past, which is why in Asia there's only a small population left in Iran, but also it still happens today, and that is a threat to the rest of the cheetah population, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit more just about that. And so, because of the demand of the cheetahs, there's a big illegal wildlife trade happening in cheetahs, and that's what we're really struggling with today, which is kind of the new challenge, in addition to the human-wildlife conflict and making a space for them in the wild. And what is happening is that the majority of the cheetahs, the biggest cheetah population is in southern Africa, where we are based, and we have about 4,000 cheetahs in Botswana and Namibia combined. But you also have some small populations here, 1,600, that's almost nothing. Very, very small populations. And if you look, the red areas is where they are. They're islands, so they're very fragmented as well. So a lot of tiny populations, most of them 100 individuals and less, which are spread around the rest of Africa. That is where the cheetah trade happens. This area, the Horn of Africa, is where most of the pet trade originates from. They're populations that cannot sustain that loss. It's quite horrifying, actually, in terms of their long-term survival. In South Africa, we have multi markets. That's another type of trade that we are looking into more. Not so sure exactly the extent of it, but we definitely know that this pet trade is a huge issue. I don't know if I can I'm not going to put the slide from before, and just because I see all the kids in the area, I was not aware of that. But so the graph that you saw is just showing you per country and per region the number of cases that we've tracked of animals that survived, that were rescued, of animals that died, of animals that we lost track of, but that we know had been trafficked. And the numbers are huge. It's over 2,000 animals. From the dates were 2000, about 10 years, in about 10 years. And so that was just a graph to show you the data of the information that we've tracked. The other thing, though, is that the numbers are getting worse. We've worked with Somaliland quite a lot recently. It's this breakoff of Somalia. And in 2017, we rescued 13 cheetahs. Not all of them survived. 2018-14, this year, until the end of October, 43 cubs were confiscated. And so that is huge numbers. It means the country is doing an amazing job at identifying the issue and capturing those animals and bringing them in, but it shows you the extent of the trade. And probably the increase is not due to the problem being bigger, it's due to their work being better, so they're doing an amazing job. But it just also means when you have 1,500 individuals and you keep taking animals out, it's not good. The other thing is those animals need to be taken care of. Of course, they don't all survive. Out of the shipment of 12 that got confiscated in October, 2 only survived. They were just, had been in crates for too long in laundry baskets. But so this is then where they go. We have helped Somaliland set up a rescue center. These are the cages, by far not comparable to the beautiful setup that you have in a zoo here, but they currently are dealing with 40 cubs. Of the animals that came in over the last years, 40 are still alive and there. 40 cubs is a huge amount. Most of those, I think, over 30 are less than a year. And so, or less than 2, less than 2 years because they contain some of those. And so this is Dr. Laurie Marker, exhausted, trying to get one of those cubs through. She spent quite a lot of time there. These are the new enclosures that they've built, but we're doing what we can. It's quite a challenge. And so to fight illegal trade, of course, you have to work with governments as well. It's quite complicated. We have to work with permitting and all of that. We're tracking the cases. We share them with CITES. They've used them in their reports. CITES is the international organization that looks for the trade of endangered species. And so that is something where we can help. And so in Somaliland, we've been quite active since 2011, and you see the number of cases that increases. They're doing a very good job at catching those. But you also have to work in the demand, because of course, if you're going to make money off of selling a cheetah and you have no morals, or you're desperate for money, you are going to do it. So you have to try and reduce the demand, which is very difficult. Shifting cultural norms is almost impossible, so you have to work slowly. We've been there a couple of times. It takes a lot more work than what we're able to do. Reducing the number of deaths of the animals that are trafficked would, of course, help. So what is considered is that 1 out of 6 animals survive the illegal trade. So for every animal getting to the destination country, 5 cubs died. And out of that animal that makes it, a lot of them don't reach adulthood because they eat fed cake, they're kept in little bathrooms or wherever the people can keep them as pets because they're so cute, and so they don't reach adulthood anyhow. And so for those animals, we try to at least improve their chances of survival, and also to make sure that they know how to take care of those animals. The other question is, when you have an animal that's captured, where did that animal come from? When it gets to the UAE, did it come from Ethiopia? Did it come from Southern Africa? So far, we don't think so. But which part of the continent did it come from? And so we have a genetics lab in Namibia that we started in 2008 with a little crew. It's now expanded quite a bit, and so we are looking at where from the cheetah range they come from. As I said, it's quite difficult to work with the animals that we have in Somaliland, so this is more Somaliland specific. We just managed to get a permit to get some samples more to the lab, so we're able to analyze them to see where they come from. But they're trying to protect the illegal trade, and that makes the legal research difficult as well. That's what we have to deal with, but that's important. So then the facilities in Somaliland I already showed you, and the care is really difficult. We are envious of the care the animals get here, and at CCF as well, of course. But then in Somaliland, it's really, really difficult to keep those 40 cubs going with the lack of experience in that country. So what zoos do to help, and that's something that is really nice when you have collaborators in the various zoos of the world, is, well, help with funding. And so your zoo has been supporting CCF for a very long time. So as you say, there's a very strong partnership between the wild and the captive of these endangered species, sending supplies, used veterinary equipment, medicine, etc., expertise and experience, a wealth of experience in the zoos, the keepers who are here, and so being able to help train the people, in particular in Somaliland and places like that, so that the animals have a chance. And then even construction, everything. So we really need help from everyone. So zoos can help, so can you, with the same aspects. And so if you know how to build an enclosure, please, come help us. and lobbying, trying to spread the word that it's not good for conservation for the world to have this illegal trade happening. And so all these are points that are really important, and where we are doing our best, the zoo is doing their best, and we need you to also contribute and join in trying to make a difference. So I thank you very much for your attention. If you have any question, there's a book that has all the information. You can also ask me if you have a question on the top of your mind. Otherwise, I thank you. It's online. It's Wiley. I'm not very good at pronouncing sorry, is it? No. I'm sorry, I've worked on this book for 3 years non-stop. It's kind of taken all my brain cells with it. But it's available online on Amazon as well. I don't think we have any here at the moment, but you can order. It's been on Amazon as well. It's Cheetah Conservation and Biology. But I'm also happy to answer any questions, and I know that your staff here as well has a lot of knowledge that they can share. So please take advantage of the great zoo that you have here in your town. So thank you very much for having us.
All right, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your patience and waiting for our wonderful cheetah guests. And of course, you heard the wonderful presentation about the great work that the Cheetah Conservation Fund is doing. And here at the Little Rock Zoo, we are just honored to be able to have such a great partner in the Cheetah Conservation Fund to be able to work on the wonderful work of saving the wild cheetah. We were actually able to send one of our keepers to Namibia. Maggie, who is one of our keepers, went to Namibia last year. Our Zoo Foundation was able to sponsor that work, and we're very honored to be able to partner with organizations like CCF to be able to do some actual work in the wild, saving wild cheetahs. So thank you very much, Dr. Ann, for being here today. We were honored to have you, and thank all of you for being here. Of course, thank you for being here and enjoying the wonderful Cafe Africa. And it's a beautiful day, so thank you again, and go and enjoy our Little Rock Zoo.